Guitar stands, they come in various forms, but not all are equal, and not all are good for your guitar. So we're going to take a look at some of the units on offer and problems that you just might encounter. Hello viewer, my name's Stu, and as always, if you're new to the channel, I recommend you go to my channel playlist starting at video number 1 to get some context regarding my music gear journey. And many thanks to those who subscribe, like and comment. It really helps the channel, so thank you for that. Now, before I continue my unboxing reviews on various music gear products to do with actually making music, it would be remiss of me not to take a look at some of those accessories that go hand in hand with guitar ownership. And sure, some of the products might not seem that exciting, but nevertheless, they do have a part in my journey back to playing and recording. So, what's the big deal about a guitar stand or a stand rack? Well, choosing the right ones for your needs is not always that straightforward. There are, of course, many types of guitar stands on the market, particularly for holding the single guitar, from the various models of floor stand styles. And here you can see differences in how the lower holding arms are shaped to accommodate various guitar body styles. Now, these types tend to follow a typical triangular design, and the guitar's weight is fully on these lower arms, with some weight also on the back of the guitar body. Now, there are various stands that hold the guitar at the neck, and here you can see that these can be from multi-holders to something more natural and artistic in design. Of course, that same neck holding design is found in the guitar wall hanger, and as you can see here. But if you do use these, do make sure that they're fixed in place properly. So what about when you have a number of guitars and you want to reach them easily? And in my case, that's because during my recording sessions, I want equipment to be easily and quickly accessed, so my concentration isn't broken, so I can get on with recording using the most suitable guitar for the track in hand. And for that, well, in most cases, it's going to be the guitar rack that fills the spot. Now, of course, if you're reasonably handy in regards to DIY, then building a guitar rack's not going to be that complicated for you. But if, like me, you want something suitable for a set number of guitars that won't break the bank, something that you can just order, get delivered quickly, and there and then put it to use, there are many products to look at if you want to do this. Now, when this particular guitar rack arrived, it came in a fairly large white box containing a tubular steel unit with foam rubber sleeves, ready to use straight out of the box. So these Hercules stands are manufactured by KHS Musical Instruments, a company that has its roots in Taiwan going back to the 1930s. And this Hercules guitar rack, as you can see, comes in a black finish. Now, before I continue, this is a very important note. Guitar stands or racks can damage your guitar. Nitrocellulose finishes, typically the higher end market of guitars, need careful handling if you want to keep the finish in good condition. Nitro finishes can get finish damage in various ways. Often this is due to temperature changes, but they are susceptible to damage when kept in contact with certain other materials, and especially certain foam rubbers, often used on guitar stands of all types. And this is where you can get a chemical reaction. Now, guitars with a poly-coated finish are much more hard-wearing, but are not necessarily exempt from damage. Much depends on the poly coating and the foam materials used on a stand, how heavy the guitar is, how long it's going to rest on the stand, and what are the environmental conditions at the time. So certainly it's usually easier to T-cut or polish out blemishes on a poly finish guitar compared to a nitro finish. But again, the same is true for a hanging style of guitar holder and this is often called neck rash when you start getting marks there, where the foam rubber or plastic has interacted with the lacquer on the guitar neck. Again, weight can help to exacerbate this problem, and so to help this, some methods include having a small support under the body as well. Now, of course, this brings up the topic of, should I keep my guitars in their cases with an appropriate silicone gel pack, particularly where there is a lot of moisture in the environment? Now, many of these questions are often based around the actual guitar model itself. If it's an expensive, well-crafted guitar and you want it to stay that way, then these are certainly things you're going to want to consider. So the guitar rack in question, it's lightweight, easy to fold up and move around, very sturdy in construction, and no, it won't do well if you sit on it. This model is described as made for 5 guitars. However, depending on the type of guitars you have, you can get accessory extension kits that will allow you to add more guitars. According to the website, it can actually take up to 10 electric guitars. So all in all, as a freestanding unit, it works very well and I've had no issues. And that's one of the things that I do like about the rack. It doesn't need to be supported by a back or side wall to keep it sturdy. You do need to watch out for that with some makes. Now, the foam rubber provided on the lower tubular sections and the plastic neck holders on the top tubular sections, the company claims to be safe for most nitro finished guitars. So a little caveat there, I think, the word being most. I've owned this rack for a few years, so what's been my experience? Particularly as I've got a few nitro finished guitars of various styles and weights. Have I encountered any issues? Well, I'll say yes and no. For example, I have a Gibson Les Paul that has a particularly thick nitro coating, and it did show slight discoloration markings and slight indents in the soft lacquer when left on the guitar rack for lengthy periods of time, and particularly when it was in warm conditions. So does that come as a surprise to me? Well, absolutely not. With that kind of weight and with such a thick soft lacquer, then it's going to be susceptible to marking of some kind pretty much on all the stands that we've got here in the studio. That particular guitar, I find the best place to keep it long term is in its own guitar case. Now, I have noticed slight markings on other nitro finished guitars, but they have been on the stand for a long period of time, and it's only very slight discoloration, and it's either been easy to wipe away or lightly polish off. I also have some poly-coated guitars which are kept on the rack for fairly long periods, a few weeks, and again, it's very rare to find anything on them, if anything at all, on the body and the body faces or on the neck. In regard to further accessories, you can purchase the rack with castors, but I'm not sure if you can get the castors separately if you have bought the stand without them. You'd need to check into that. Either way, it's not difficult to rig up your own caster system on the rack if that was something you wanted to do. So there you have it. What do I think? Well, in the late 1970s and early 80s, I never owned any more than 2 guitars at one point in time, and even at that, even if I did, it was quite rare. So for most of us impoverished guitar players back then, we could only afford 1 guitar at a time, so guitar racks were not really a consideration, but single guitar stands were. For me, leaning your guitar against your amplifier or whatever was to hand was the norm. Having a guitar stand just seemed kind of a bit posh, particularly when there were so many other demands for your hard-earned money that most of us didn't have much of. Nevertheless, as my playing days marched on and we were playing more venues, having your guitar on a stand on the stage just felt a bit safer than leaning it against a vibrating Marshall stack. In those old days, hanging guitar floor stands were very popular for electric guitar players, but they were not without their issues. Many were kind of made of a lightweight pressed metal, and the tripod feet, it didn't have much of a spread, which meant you needed to be careful that the guitar did not fall over because the stand was on a slightly uneven surface. Or of course, the odd careless individual that would brush against it and clang, your guitar was face down on the floor. Now, in regard to the Hercules Rack Stand, well, I first had this in my lounge, and that was initially to help me use each guitar model regularly so they were easy to hand. However, we got a lot of direct sunlight in our lounge, and no matter where I placed it, there was an issue with bright light and temperature changes, so not a good environment for keeping guitars in good condition. As it happens, I'd already intended to bring all my music gear into our production studio, so it's easy to change out guitars quickly for specific music recording. Guitars, I do tend to only leave them on the rack for long periods of time if they are in use. Otherwise, I store them away in cases to keep them in a stable and safe condition. And that's, as I've said before, that's another topic. How do you best store your guitars that are not in general use? Now, if you're in the market for a guitar rack, then I have to say this Hercules unit is certainly one to check out. I did look at other products available from various manufacturers, but I just felt that this Hercules was the right choice for my needs, and it really does do the job well. Again, for the record, I need to say nobody paid me to review this product. In the next video, we do some more unboxing, so please do subscribe, hit the bell to get notifications, like, share, and so on, as it really helps the algorithms for the channel. Now, as I've mentioned before, it's always nice to hear of others' experiences or tips that you can share, so do comment below. Do check out my channel playlists where you can find my guitar video series, which covers my journey back to playing and recording guitar after a 40-year break. So for some, a trip down memory lane. So whether you're a newcomer, an ongoing player, or like me, an old hand returning to guitar playing, I always take time to engage with folks who take time to comment. So until next time, the journey continues. Do take care.